post-pandemic, but it feels a little bit more positive.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm gonna take 3 seconds and get us set up on Facebook, and then we will be good to go.
That sounds good. Oh, that's right. This is Facebook Live.
It is. It's very exciting.
Nothing can possibly go wrong.
Of course not.
All right, here we are. Good morning, everyone. It's Guest Thursday on Daily Dose, and we are in 3 places at once, which taxes my technological capacity almost to the end of its stretch, but it seems to be working, so hot diggity. We're joined today by my good friend, Michael Strand. And Michael, I was trying to tell Maz, I feel like you've had so many promotions since I've met you that I can't even tell him now what your job title is. So can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, I'm the director of the School of Design, Architecture, and Art at North Dakota State University, which is about 550 awesome inventors of ideas, buildings, concepts, artwork, graphic designers, a bunch of inventors. It's like I gotta hang on. That's what I have to do. It's
yes.
It's like I actually think I have one of the coolest jobs in the world.
It does sound like that, actually.
Well, it's not unlike your job, Dr. Mary. I mean, you're up in a greenhouse with kids who think that it's pretty cool to figure out if tomatoes grow better in lava rock in an aquaponics system than they do in soil, as they think about how to feed the globul planet. That's pretty cool.
That's very kind of you to say, Dana, but let's be real. I have 5 students who like that.
You're not a director.
Michael just talked about nearly 600 people.
Well, you know what? Well, Dr. Maz, I was just looking at your background, and man, those lights remind me of my dorm room. I absolutely love it, man.
Oh, yeah, that's right. This is my office of Zen that keeps me level.
I just remember my mood lighting. I was thinking of the mood lighting. That's what I was thinking of.
Yes, I call it his moody office of contemplation.
Is that a lava lamp?
Yes.
Oh man, you know what? We got to hang out more because I'll just share the. What's that?
The physical plant is putting in a shag pile carpet for me over the summer.
Oh man. Okay. See, this is where we have a kinship because we have a lava lab in Renaissance Hall, which is landscape architecture, visual art. It's like a maker space, a bunch of 3D printers. And I acquired a large lava lamp for the studio because you cannot have a lava lab. And it's got these giant, like on the floor, big beanie seats. I think we need some shag carpeting in there now too. Now that I hear that you put the shag carpeting, and I'll just share one last thing about that. You acquire something and you wonder, they're going to wonder why you bought a lava lamp. Well, here's why. I donated the money to the foundation, and I wanted a lava lamp to be purchased for that space.
Excellent. So, I hope it's got a commemorative plaque on it, Michael.
It should. But it's like, 2 feet tall. So anyways, I love seeing a lava lamp hanging out.
Excellent. Well, it's really nice to see you. One of the things that has been so interesting about bringing guests onto Daily Dose is that many of our guests have been friends and acquaintances in our life, and because of COVID, it's sort of the only way we're actually seeing anyone. So it's been sort of a double bonus of getting to dig deeper into addiction and all of its many components, facets, and phases, and reconnect with people. Yeah. So, Michael, one of the first times I ever met you, you shared with me that you'd been in recovery already at that point for quite a number of years. And we always start these conversations really with the question of, can you give us sort of the where you were and how you got to here? And you can start the where you were however far back you want, but what got you to where you are today in terms of your sobriety?
Yeah. Well, I'll preface this by saying, and this isn't a cliche, that I am thankful not for the disease that I have, but I'm thankful for the experience of recovery, because it's made me an completely different human being than I think I would be if I had never had to be recovered.
Us too.
Yeah.
And it's a gift in a way. You know, it's, I think I could say silver lining. It's that, so I want to preface it by saying that, oh gosh, you know, the decisions you make when my addiction was to alcohol. So the decisions you make to ensure your availability to that are kind of also weirdly remarkable, like just the ways in which you would plan.
I agree.
But the recovery to that and the skills that it's given me to understand and hear people and listen, and there's a lot of things so I want to preface it with that I'm so, and this sounds really odd, but I'm going to start back when I was, and I hadn't thought about this since, I mean, I was just going to come on and just do this riff, you know.
Yeah.
I've lived the life, so it's not like it's hard to reconstruct. I think it's important. I'm going to really quickly start when I was I had a paper out when I was 9 years old, 9 to 17, right? And it was every day. I had a paper out partially because I needed to help support my family, to be quite straightforward about it. And on that paper out, I would just think so much. I was just, you know, when I remember back, it was essentially an hour every morning, every day, to be a 12-year-old thinking about the world, no distractions, walking around, putting up in Morningside in Moorhead, Minnesota, putting that and knowing my and why I bring that up is because I really in that time developed a deeply reflective, I think, deeply reflective kind of personality. It's a lot of alone time where you're just thinking about stuff and not just in your room or playing a game or whatever. I was thinking a lot. And I remember one day on my paper route, I took a next step, right? And I said, wow, well, this is really interesting because my future is right now. I just took a step and that was my future. And it was like those little revelations when you're a 14-year-old, like, and that's an important start because then I played football in high school, which I'm a pacifist and a kind of a nice dude, which wasn't a very good fit.
You're also a good sized man.
Yeah,
You're tall.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I was the biggest dude always, you know, and so it was like, oh yeah, this is what you do, and it really wasn't my thing. I liked my teammates, but I just didn't. The whole thing was just didn't fit me. So in every way, I was doing things that didn't quite fit who I was, right? And really, you know, that's you build the foundation is just like going out with your friends and having a good time. And went to college at St. Cloud State, and continued with building a really fantastic foundation for having a quite a long career in drinking. And you know, it wasn't. There's a time within, and I think this is with people who are in addiction in general, and it's been 17. This is my 17th year of sobriety, so I feel. Well, you know this when you met me. I'm incredibly open about my sobriety because I think my experience is important to share. For those people need to know that I've had this journey. So if they have questions, they can connect with me. So I'm open about it. You build a long kind of methodology, and there's all kinds of different people who consume. I was a methodological drinker. I would not do. I never consumed alcohol and drove a car. And I'll tell you, there's one reason why. And this sounds y'all, because one, I didn't think that was right. But the other part is, well, you know, if I get a DUI or something, I'm gonna have to stop drinking. Like that is how amazing alcoholism can be. Like I need to manage this because it's your addiction, right? And I think that's one thing that people don't quite get about it. It isn't like a bunch of people like recklessly like slamming down alcohol all day long or something. There's so many different ways that people are within this kind of realm. And there's all kinds of personality types, right? So but what happened, of course, is that that all starts to slowly devolve, right? Your methods start to devolve, and the impact you have in your family and the impact you have on everybody around you devolves. And I had a really successful undergraduate. I was maintaining a very successful art practice, super high obsessive maker, just like my drinking. Like I was either consuming or making ceramics all, not at the same time, but one after the other. It wasn't affecting my making. I got into graduate school. I was had a lot of success in graduate school. The classic version of maintaining an addiction while you're demonstrating success. I wasn't like, a complete train wreck.
Yeah.
Internally, I was a, pretty damn big train wreck, maintaining all of this. And so I was able to maintain processes but also maintain that addiction. And I was a classic kind of manager of micromanaging my addiction, right? And in reflection, and even while I was doing, I thought it was like dosing. And I'm just going to be blunt about it. Like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure I can do that thing at 8 p.m. tonight. It's like insanity, really. But it's this controlled part of it. And there came a point, and I decided in talking about this that there are people that are impacted by this, and to those people, and I say those people because I always think that in talking about this, to protect folks who might have been impacted by me, I don't bring them into this conversation. I'm mindful that this is my journey. I've made my amends to the best that I've been able to do, but they're not going to be. I don't want to continue to republish their journey in this, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Along the way, a lot of those things were challenged, obviously, from my relationships to mentors, to loved ones, to my mom and dad, and, like wondering, how I'm doing and all those things. It starts to devolve. And to the point at which I woke up one morning. This is very, there's this point at which you're just like, okay, I think I've had enough now. I actually woke up one morning, and I grew up in a Lutheran tradition, and I just said, I just need help, God. Like I think either I make this choice or I won't be here probably in 6 months. Really, not like, that's not hyperbole.
Right.
I had devolved. I'd lost my, at my first job, I think I did a really great job at a community arts center as a first education director, helped develop a bunch of things. But then my consumption, I think, caught up with me at the end, because I had good relationships with everybody there. I still could manage professional relationships. I've always been an empathizer and a listener, and I'm, care about people, and that's evident. I've never been I was never a jerk alcoholic. In fact, it would just amplify my sort of like empathetic spirit. I'd want to hear more, right? I was like the alcoholic counselor. Like, what? Tell me more about that. So, but in that job, they kindly said, our grant is up, and, but that was one of the triggers that really helped, right? Like, okay, I'll make it. And I did. I made living as an artist for about 6 months, still consuming, and I did projects and continued to just hang on to my addiction, because that's what it is at that point. I knew that I had something I could do in the world, and this thing was stopping me.
Mm-hmm.
And woke up one day and asked for help. I called my pastor at church, who was really kind and pointed me in the right direction, got me a sponsor. The sponsor, here's the thing, I also do this as well, like was there within an hour. Like just this anonymous dude. And I'll just say dude because it was just this guy showed up like, well, what's going on? Let's go talk about it. Right. Like I was like, what? I don't even know you. And then suddenly I'm pouring everything out to this human being. Now I'm fortunate in this because I went to an AA meeting that night. Now here's the other part about that's important. This is 2 days before the birth of my second son. And I had that morning before calling, I said, I'm never going to live a day in my life where I will consume alcohol. And my son will not be in this world with me ever consuming alcohol again. It's just not going to happen. I needed a larger reason. Now that's still a reason for yourself, right? Because you have to make that decision on your own. But that was enough of one that I have a second son. I wasn't going to ask to go get me a beer, right? Like I wasn't going to live that life with my son. My older son, who was at the time 3, wasn't quite old enough to really be impacted by it yet. But I'm fortunate in that day, that was the last time. And he was born. I was 2 days sober, which is a big deal. And I think back.
That's a rough time.
That first 2 weeks are pretty weird. And there's more I'd like to say about that. Something like this tipping point, because now I'm doing work around this. So the first 2 weeks are tough. And I went to AA meetings several times. And I was always marveling when I go to an AA meeting, like somebody be like, oh, I've been sober for 32 years. I'm like, they were like superheroes sitting in chairs, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, whoa. It was like there was an aura around, and they were straight shooting. They were not like, you could tell it wasn't like a fabrication. It's like, yeah, 32 years of sobriety, still coming to these meetings once a month, and here I am. And they just like sat there with a cape on, in my mind.
I know the feeling. I almost get, oh my God, he talked to me. He shook my hand.
Yeah, these right now. There's these and in this case, there was men and women who fulfilled that role. But because I could identify with a male, it was really important for me to see somebody who would actually even be a bit like me.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it's not like I had to have a relationship. I just needed to know that there's somebody there. So that's it's not super, inside the world of recovery, we joke around about some of the obsessive ways that we would do the way that we would, but I always think that and I'll use this term, addiction porn, right? And so I think there's people that want to hear those things so they can think about that. And so I like to think about that as something that's an internal conversation in a way, but something I do share as well. But what I mean by that is that it's we have such a fetishization of people's struggles in our culture at times, right? Mm-hmm. And so I like to frame it in a way, find ways to frame it so it's more informational and not,
fantastical.
Wow, yeah, like more like fantastical. So there's my and how did I get? I'll tell you. The last part about this is, and this is not an exaggeration. 1 month after, and I was lucky enough not to have to do an inpatient or anything. I just was like done. My brain kind of works this way. I was just like, okay, I've now resolved that that's over somehow. And I'm just going to now do my work through it. 4 months later, I got a call from a university that needed an emergency hire for a faculty position. And Gail Kendall, we'll bring Gail's name up because he's so Gail Kendall's my mentor on every level, advocated for me to get that position. I was sitting 4 months later in my first academic job, sober, Like, I'll tell you this, Maz, I don't know if you felt this way. There's a point at which you're like, holy wow, the amount of energy I have, like waking up feels pretty much like
Yeah,
way better than having my first drink.
it
Like,
does.
it's like your superhero strength for a while. So I'm like, wait, I need to get back to what the those days when I'd be like, man, waking up was like, it was amazing. But I don't know if you've had that experience, Maz.
I
But
did. I still do, actually, I think.
yeah. There's moments where I really relish in that still. Like, I'm like, hey, like today, it's a beautiful day. I usually go for a walk, and it's like, man, I am walking this world, and I'm not doing it in a cloud. So
it's funny because I think if you live with an addict who goes into recovery, and so I mean that is my experience with any of this, is just being the spouse of this.
yeah.
But that thing you're talking about, that sort of waking up in gratitude, is contagious. So the same way, 5 years ago, I would wake up next to a man who maybe had finally come to bed sometime in the middle of the night and was still sort of passed out next to me. And that felt contagious. That weight, that heaviness, that despair
Mm-hmm.
was contagious. Now he boings out of bed. He's got the kettle on. He's making me tea. He's getting the Cheerios. He's doing all this stuff. And that's contagious.
Right.
And I have found that I am so much more able to be grateful, both because I now live with someone like that, but also because it comes off of him.
Mm-hmm.
So the same way you looked at the men and women in the chairs as superheroes, that's how I feel about Maz often, and that aura moves past me. So I get to live in it too. It's really a profound gift that you, as people in recovery, have the ability to give to your spouse, your children, because I know that Quinn feels it too, which means your boys, even though your boys maybe don't remember you from before, your boys benefit, consciously or not, from the fact that you wake up and think, hot diggity, it's an amazing day to be up, as opposed to dragging yourself around in the world, counting the hours until it's appropriate to start drinking.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's an
Oh,
amazing thing.
yeah.
It's kind of like the original story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You show the world your worst, and then you work at being the best you can be. And I actually agree with you, Michael. Being an alcoholic and being in recovery has actually made me a way better human being.
Yeah.
I think a better teacher too, to be honest with you. And obviously a better husband.
Yeah, I think I think a better teacher for sure. One of the weird things that we just went through with, or we're going through this pandemic, it made me a better pandemic-er, whatever we call what we were, a pandemic-er.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've been sharing this to many people now. Like, now I don't know if I still reflect on whether this is healthy or not, because I'm always wondering, okay, where's my mental health in this? I actually had, now as it wore on, it really started to affect me. I had some concerns about health. I'm a little bit obsessive about health. That's not related to this specifically, but there is this part about folks who are in recovery where we might be concerned about health in an out of scale way, because frankly, I was close to not being around anymore for a variety of reasons. But in the pandemic, I'm talking about as far as like going to the mall or a restaurant, I had absolutely no problem saying, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I don't care. And the reason why is because I've given up something for life. And knowing that something would be temporarily not part of my existence was so easy. I'm like, well, I'll just do it next year. Like, I can't say that about having an ice cold beer, right?
That's brilliant. I never even thought about it. I think I'll be doing the same thing.
You're just like, oh, what are you all worried about? Applebee's? Like, are you really worried about Applebee's, y'all? Like,
sadly, it's still going to be there.
It's still gonna, well, I was gonna say hopefully so, but
yeah.
So that's been interesting. I've been reflecting on my pandemic response, both healthy and unhealthy ways, because I also obsess about things like health and, get lonely as well. But giving up on things, no problem. That's not.
Michael,
But
are
I
you
don't get to go to
someone,
Cashwise. Oh gosh.
are you someone who practices Lent? Because Lent must be really easy for you if you do.
40 days, bring it. Yeah.
No, I don't, but I love that. I think that'd be amazing to learn from people who go through Lent. Are like, what? Once a year, I give up the. I can always go
Yeah,
back.
I mean, I don't practice Lent either, but
Yeah.
you hear people say things like, well, I'm going to give up chocolate or pop
Yeah.
or whatever. And they really struggle with it because they're thinking, and I've never thought about this until you said this, but they're thinking about it from a place of loss. And you think about it from a place of it's 40
Yeah.
days. I mean, if you
Yeah.
live another 40 years, you're going to have spent 57 years in sobriety.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what's 40 days? I mean, it's a really tipped on its head way to think about making temporary sacrifices or temporary, refusals of things. I love that. It's got a much more
Brilliant.
positive approach to it than, oh my gosh, 39 more days.
I love this. I'm sorry, I've got to cut out. I've got to go and give an exam. Michael, it was fantastic to talk to you, and hopefully we'll meet up and carry on this
We can
conversation.
meet up in a beanbag and have some coffee and
Yeah, man. We have a lava lamp. We have 3D printers running. All the kind of. It's a good place to hang out and chat.
I'll be there.
I'll bring
Well,
him over.
thank you, Dana. I'll see you later. Thank
All right,
you.
good luck with your final.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later.
Well, Michael, I won't keep you either because it's a busy week for you as well. Everybody's wrapping up their semester.
It's a half an hour. Was that a half hour?
Was a half hour.
Jeez.
I know. Time flies when you're talking about stuff that matters.
Well, in the future, when you need somebody else to come on, I want to talk to you about a couple more things around this.
We would love to have you back.
It'll be
because-
because there's a couple things I think are important, just that I always think that are important to share within it.
Well, you know what? When I get us off, I'll send you a note and we'll get you rescheduled because I think there's always value in continuing the conversation. Nobody's story wraps up in 30 minutes. It's the start of people. And what we know from our audience is that there's something to take, whether addiction is an active piece of your life or not. This idea of temporary sacrifice versus making a lifetime commitment is, I think, going to turn a bunch of people right on their heads and give them such a much more positive way to think about all the struggles that we go through. That's not the role of an addict. That's the role of being a human being.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that has been what has been so profound for me in all of these conversations is this is your thing. Alcohol is the thing that you battled and overcame and worked on. We all have a thing or things. And so it's just about where can people plug in and find that aha moment for themselves. And every Thursday, somebody at least has that opportunity. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dana. You're always
this.
Awesome. You're
Yeah.
as you know that you are one of my heroines. You're awesome.
Well,
I
I
greatly
appreciate that, Michael. And I will talk to you soon and we'll get you scheduled back on later this summer.
All right. Take care.
Everybody else, we'll see you tomorrow live at 8:30. Thanks so much.
See
Bye.
ya.